trying to help make social media a more positive platform, you got to keep going and not be worrying about, oh my gosh, we just did this great post and we got 408 likes. Like my niece gets more for, and it's like, Andy, don't even worry about it. I don't even, and you have to push that away, right? But it's almost an addiction, right?
Absolutely an addiction. I deleted Instagram off of my phone as an experiment while I was writing this because I could tell how addicted to social media I was. And I would find myself day in and day in and out, holding my phone, having opened the app that slid over to replace Instagram, not knowing how I got there, like just totally mindlessly. And it would be like waking up from a dream. Like I was going to look at it without even realizing I was doing it, without wanting to, without meaning to. It was like that deeply ingrained in my brain, which is horrifying. But I also think it's like, human nature, like the negative things always stick with you the most, right? Like I can read 100 good reviews about this book, but I will remember verbatim like all the nasty things anyone ever says. And social media is like the worst of that. Like we are addicted to using it, and it's very easy for people to anonymously say whatever they want, and we take it at face value, even though we know it's like some unhappy troll who isn't even strong enough to say it under their real name. And also, I have to say, for any naysayer listening to this, like the fact that you guys have made it through a year of pandemic and are thriving and stronger than ever, I think speaks to the truth that this is like the real thing.
Oh,
I
thank you.
celebrate it. But yeah, it's like, it's horrifying. And I don't know how I was one of the last generations to at least have some of my childhood without the internet or without social media. Like I don't know how you grow up with that from the start and maintain like a positive outlook. And like, the fact that Mark Zuckerberg is talking about trying to make an Instagram for like under 13-year-olds, like this is the worst idea I've ever heard. Like it's horrifying.
In hype, are there some remedies or a few little solutions, or do you consult on like, hey, how do it's all about balance for me personally. And is there a way to look at social media from a balance perspective?
Yeah, I think you have to, and it's important for parents, it's important for individuals to remember, like, you have to remember that, like, what's online isn't real. No matter how real it looks, like, the amount of likes that you get on a picture means nothing in the end. Like, it's just a representative of how many people that algorithm showed it to, and what percentage of the people that were showed by that algorithm, like, click with that content. Like, it is not a judgment on you or your message or the content of the image. Like, it, and you, I don't know, like, you just have to remember that, like, what's offline is real, and what's online is fun, but it's just as much a distraction and just as much as fiction as watching a reality show on TV or even watching a scripted show on TV. Like, it is entertainment, and we need to remember that that is all that it is.
I love that. It's entertainment. That, I think, for me, resounds, right? One of the things that through COVID or whatever, we've been addicted a little bit. Well, we don't really watch much television, but if we turn on the TV at night, every once in a while we'll just turn on HGTV, and you've got Flipper Flop, and you've got blah blah blah, and you've got, oh my word, and everybody has their formula, right? But it is entertainment, and I say to Craig, it's kind of fun because in the last few months, some cute girls come out with a show, which is like, I don't remember the title. It's called something like No Demo. Because everybody walks into our house like, oh my God, I'm going to open this place up. I'm taking down every wall. I'm blah, blah. And I'm looking, I say to Craig, even if you put new countertops in and put a marble top on that island and reface the cabinets, that kitchen would be great. Why are they ripping down 19 walls? Like, but they're doing it. But I'm like, wow, here's this one girl comes in and she said, listen, Mike, I'm the no demo queen. I ain't demoing your house. I may make a doorway wider. I'm going to resurface, reclaim, blah, 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 blah. And it was so refreshing to see. I was like, oh my God. But that's kind of fun, positive entertainment. And for me with social media, so often it can be kind of malicious. It makes you feel bad. You're like, oh my God, I'm not good enough. I'm not. And here we are, somewhat grounded adults, right? And
I wrote
think,
a book about this, and I still go online and look at what influencers are doing and think like, well, why doesn't my life look like that? And I literally wrote the book. Like, there's no
yeah.
escaping it.
Oh yeah. We made a post the other day. It was beautiful, and then Craig's like, well, what are you doing? Why you seem a little bit down? We were hiking or something. I said, well, geez, I told the cow sitters that they're supposed to start the cars and we're away and they don't, and the batteries are dead in two of the cars, and now this and then something and on and on. I was just focusing on all the negatives. I was just spinning into a little, and I'm like, whoa, Andy, just snap out of it. Like, just, we are lucky, because I'm like, oh, I wish that car were brand new and it's not 12 years old, and why are we having this issue at the farm right now, and what's going on with this and that, and you have to look at things where we're literally right now through COVID, and we're we're going to be moving from the farm, which is very emotional. I've been here 10 years, but it's time to kind of, I mean, who lives on 400 acres anymore? Nobody. Who's worrying about, fields after fields and like, it's wonderful, but it's time to and so we're doing this whole piece. We've partnered with this wonderful estate sale company, online estate sale company. And so my sisters and Craig are like, Andy, here's the goal, 50%. You got to get rid of 50% of your stuff. I mean, I'm like, 10 bedrooms? Like, what do you want me to do? 3 dining rooms, the library, the den, the living room, do you really need all this shit? I'm like, no, I guess not. But I have a story on everything from my grandmother to my great grandmother to an aunt to, on and on and on. And so it is fascinating. Like, how do you, and then the company that's helping us, they're like, well, Andy, you should do a little podcast. I'm like, hey, Andy King and Craig McBlain are downsizing, and how cool. Here are the positives of like how to simplify your life a little bit and not look at it like, I can't believe that I'm in a position right now where I have to sell these things. I'm like, I don't have to sell them, but to be carrying around all the stuff for the rest of my life where we can't, like, we're looking at these houses and like, well, we're never moving into a 10-bedroom house, and I don't think we'll ever move into a 6-bedroom. We don't need them. Like, half of my friends keep buying these beautiful old houses on the ocean and tearing them down and building these big, big houses. And when I say to them, what rooms do you use? They're like, well, when the kids visit, for a week here or a week there, blah, blah, blah. But other than that, it's the kitchen, the family room, and the porch and the bedroom. I'm like, oh my God, you got an 8,000, 10,000 square foot house. And that's, so anyway, I know I'm rambling on this, but isn't it true? It's still the old FOMO clicks in a little bit when you're looking at all these other influencers, and then you step back and you go, like here right now, wow, I'm in Southampton right now, and it's a beautiful day. And when I finish chatting with Andy, I'm probably going to go out and have some lunch and go for a walk. And how lucky are we, right?
Yes,
And
very much.
even being in the city, my cute friend, I'm going to do a podcast with Louise Forbes. You'd love Louise, and she's a real estate broker. But all through COVID, she started doing this blog about all the cool things that are going on in New York, even during COVID. And she's just, and I love that. I mean, New York is my home, and I've been in that city for over 30 years, and it breaks my heart to see Soho and all these areas with all these stores boarded up still, and half of them closed, and it's going to come back, right? But
Say it's already back. Like, I was downtown, I was at Lola Taverna like a week or two ago, and it was like a party. Everyone outside, there was a brass band that came through, there was a protest from Stonewall that came through, but it was like a very positive experience where, people sitting down at tables were chanting back with them. Like, New York never left, but it is certainly like back, and it makes me feel so grateful to see, just to be among people, and that's what I hope, can be the legacy of COVID, is just really appreciating each other and our health and what we have. Like, there are so many good things to be excited about still, I think.
I think so too. And maybe, listen, I've always said to people, New York needed a correction, right? I mean, these kids now, rents have come down a little bit, and maybe it's a little more affordable. And it got out of control. I was like, oh my word. I mean, me with my funny little apartment in the West Village, I mean, there it was, granted, 90 Bedford Street, above the Little Owl, and there it is, the Friends building, and everybody knows it, and everybody takes their picture, and then suddenly Andy King walks out, and everybody's going, oh my gosh, is that Andy King from Fire who lives in the Friends building? And yeah, and I'm up in the top floor, walk up, penthouse. It was a beautiful apartment and bright and sunny, but I'm like, at $4,000 a month, I'm walking up 6 flights of stairs. Like, what goes on? And at my age, I'm like, I just can't keep doing this. But It is amazing. I feel like New York City is strong, and it is, I think, still the center of the universe. And I'm happy to hear that you're still hanging there and still driving positivity. I think that it will come back, and maybe, hopefully, some of the negative things that were going on before will slowly disappear a little bit. And that's what we've learned through COVID. Maybe, I don't know,
Yeah.
price
Well,
structures too.
you were saying that with like the celebrities in COVID who like didn't know better than to like try and pretend that everyone we were all in the same boat kind of thing when like clearly we weren't. It makes me think of the Imagine video, if you remember when that first started.
Oh gosh.
COVID. And one of the people involved, I think it was Jamie Dornan, he was the only one to shoot it inside like a nondescript room. And when asked about it later, he was like, I didn't think it was appropriate to be like showing off how much I have and trying to make other people jealous. And if there's any one conclusion out of this, it's like maybe we don't need to be trying to like inspire other people to feel jealous of us or like create this negative affect. Like we can just like really embrace what we have and be cool about it. That would be a nice legacy if we can achieve it.
Oh my word. Well, I feel like after your work with writing hype, that's a great message, right? I mean, it's a great message to we fight every day with the greed factor, and this is constantly. And even right now, it's sort of funny because as we're working with this online estate sale company, we're pricing everything. It's really weird to be pricing like a desk from my grandmother or a beautiful dining room table and all these. And I'm like, but
There's
I'm
a
like,
real emotional connection with that. That's like a legitimate feel like a experience.
I think, but where the issue is, it's like the greed factor. I'm like, oh well, geez, I know that, for instance, there's a sofa, and I know that when my mom redid that sofa, it's probably got it was probably $2,500 for the fabric and $2,500 to have it reupholstered. So it's $5,000. Meanwhile, she already bought it for X, whatever. But now I'm like, oh, can we get, and it's in perfect condition, I'm like, well, can we get $400 for it? I'm like, oh no, but let it go, right? Don't let the greed factor rule your life, and
Honor it and let it go.
honor it and let it go. And hopefully, if we can manage FOMO, right, if we can find that balance, and the balance of like greed versus reality, and also when is enough enough. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that maybe that'll be the title of your next book, When Is Enough Enough? Because it's like,
Either
hey,
that or hyper I've been playing
oh,
with.
hyper good. I mean, hopefully, Gabby, our jobs now really are to kind of, we're not allowed to say we want to educate people, but we want to inspire them to make better choices and better decisions, right? And
Very
I
much.
feel like in reading your book, you're sending that message, which is pretty cool, about when you're making these decisions as an influencer, or as the recipient of, you know, of following social media, like how do you make the right decision and the right choice? How do you align yourself with the right groups? And that's probably going to be the biggest challenge, right?
Yeah, well, I think we as consumers can kind of encourage that, right? Because the power that influencers have is their follow count. If we all unfollowed the Kardashians tomorrow, they would have no cultural capital anymore. So we can choose as consumers to follow the people that are, doing positive things, and hopefully that will inspire a sea change, maybe.
Do you find, Gab, when you talk about like the Kardashians, but let's talk about like a legitimate brand, but a big brand. Are there a couple out there that you admire right now?
It's hard for me. I'm very cynical about brands, and part of it is like, you know, even the brands that are saying the right thing right now and that are, supporting the right causes and donating money towards the right things and posting the black square. Unfortunately, like it seems to me again an issue of marketing versus reality, right? Like show me that your executive board matches these ideals that you are putting in press releases.
Bingo.
There needs to be that backing up of what they're saying. And I know, I'm sure there are brands that are doing the work and actually doing it, but none that I'm aware of or I'm like very excited about right now. But you would probably know better than I on that.
Well, I mean, it's a challenge. I don't know if you listened to Biden's speech a couple nights ago, but when he spoke about some of the biggest industry leaders